Hi, I want to go over the Code of Ethics. Uh, I gave out this during a previous class, and if you recall, there's a PDF or whatever here online, the SBJ Code of Ethics. This is just the online. I gave you a paper copy of that, but I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on this web browser. That way we can see it a little bit bigger. It's going to be a little bit different format. But as far as the Code of Ethics, the Code of Ethics is the idea. This is how, as a journalist, you should live and conduct yourself. One of the things I always like to tell people is, the thing about being a journalist is that you don't have any special knowledge. Yeah, just you know how to write, you know how to to gather information, you know how to interview people, you know some of those aspects, you know how to communicate in a meaningful way, but you don't necessarily know like quantum physics or medicine or anything. Instead, you rely upon other people to give you that information. You don't know what's going on in city government other than what people tell you. You might understand it. You might have kind of a general knowledge of a lot of things. But the only thing you really have as a journalist is your ability to go out and get information from people and then to give it to other people. And all that relies upon other people. So at the end of the day, if you are not a person that people can trust to give you information, or you're not a person who conducts themselves honestly, then nobody's going to trust or believe what you have to say. And so the code of ethics is sort of how you should conduct yourself in order to do your job, as well as to try to maintain the respect the profession deserves. I think in our current society, I think that journalists lack a lot of respect, or they've sort of been seen as dishonest. Donald Trump likes to call it the lying media or the dishonest media. And so, there's a little bit of a hurdle we have to overcome. But by and large, I can tell you from having worked in the media that most journalists are very ethical. Most people go to journalism because they have an interest in making a difference. There's 2 or 3 reasons why people become journalists. One is that they like to write, or they like to tell stories, or they like to gather information and make videos and do that kind of thing. And that's a important thing. If you don't enjoy writing, you don't enjoy telling stories, you don't enjoy gathering information, then you probably shouldn't be a journalist. If you can't do the actual stuff you have to do, that's not probably a good choice. But that alone is not enough. The other side of the coin is sometimes people just like the adventure of it. As a journalist, you can go cover a war zone. You can start your morning, if you're at a local paper, you can start your morning, covering a fair, and then the afternoon you can be at a murder scene, and then the evening you can be at a strike or a council meeting. There's always a variety of things. As a journalist, you will know everybody in town, not everybody in town, but you'll know a lot of people. You'll know where everything is. Even a large metropolitan area, you will quickly learn and go more places and meet more people than most people do who do other jobs. And so one of the nice things about being a journalist is it gets you out in public, gets you to meet the people, and every day is different. You're always meeting new people, you're always going new places, you're always getting to try new things. Not everybody can say, the time that, they got to go, walk around on the court and interview players at, a football game or not the court, basketball game, like an NBA game or something. But a journalist can do that because they will do that. So one of the things that also attracts people is the adventure. But the third thing, and I think one of the things that keeps people in it as well, is really excites people about it, is you can make an impact. And so by just simply telling a story, you bring information to people, and so people are like, that was wrong, and they want change. This can come in the form of, you expose some corruption at the city government. You tell about a coat drive and children who are in need of coats, or, you talk about a homeless shelter that's, needing support, or whatever it be. And you tell the story of people in need, and oftentimes when people read it, if you do your job well, people respond. And so I think a lot of times as a journalist, one thing that a lot of people like to do is they like the idea that they are going to make the world a better place by telling people stuff, by informing the world about, by informing people about stuff. They will improve the world. And so I think that the code of ethics is, what I'm trying to say though is that most journalists come in and like the fact that they're having a positive change. And so the idea that a journalist would be ethical strikes me as extremely reasonable. Even people who like politics and like the idea of running around Washington and scooping and getting dirt on the president or where they're doing it because they want to hold politicians to account. They want to make the world a better place. Every one of those, no matter where their niche is, they want to make the world a better place. I think a lot of people do, and so the reality is that most journalists behave ethically because the very reason they went into journalism, the very reason they stay in journalism, the very reason they like journalism is they like being out there making a difference, improving their world. So we start off, the preamble is just sort of a statement. It says, members of the Society of Professional Journalists believe that public enlightenment is the forerunner of justice and the foundation of democracy. Ethical journalism strives to ensure the free exchange of information that is accurate, fair, and thorough. An ethical journalist acts with integrity. And so, they realize that, the information they gather by telling the stories is important and it provides justice and the foundation of society. And that, by being fair, accurate, and thorough, that you will help society to be a better place. And I think most journalists accept that and most people will do that. And so they act with integrity because they realize the power of doing that. The Society of Professional Journalists declares 4 principles as the foundation of ethical journalism, encourages their use in all its practices by all people in the media. And so the 4 principles, and each one of these has many underlying points, but the first one is seek truth and report it. You can go down here, minimize harm, act independently, and be accountable and transparent. And so each of these then has some areas underneath it where it then explains what each of these means. Like seek truth and report it means ethical journalism should be accurate and fair. Journalists should be honest and courageous in gathering, reporting, and interpreting information. So that's the first thing is you want to go out, you want to seek truth. You want to find things that are true and then tell other people. That's all a journalist does, is they find things that are true and then report them. I mean, obviously you don't want to report everything that is true in the sense that, like I'm not wearing socks. That is information that probably none of you really need to know, right? I'm, not really sure, that's sort of a truth that is beyond anything. But you want to go out and find truth that matters and report it. But if you find something that's true and you think it will impact people, then you should report it, is the general rule. And so you should be courageous in gathering, reporting, and interpreting. Don't just take things people want to give you, but go out there and find things that are important. Don't just give them the stuff that people want to tell you, like they're not wearing socks. Instead, go out there and get the information that people don't want to tell you. So, as far as it goes, let's run through some of the points on this. The first one says, journalists should take responsibility for the accuracy of their work, verify information before releasing it, use original sources whenever possible. So there's a couple of things here. You need to take responsibility. If you get something wrong, you need to admit you got it wrong. You need to say, hey, I got it wrong, and you need to write a correction. And while it's not much fun to call and apologize, and it's not much fun to get things wrong, it is of vital importance that you take responsibility for the accuracy of what you do. And so the reason is it gives you credibility, but it also gives you greater importance on the fact when you get something wrong, you realize the impact of it. If you have to call up the person that you did wrong and apologize, if you have to face them and you have to put your head down and say, I made a mistake, I'm sorry, that makes you more aware not to do it again. And so I think that has a dual purpose, taking responsibility has a dual purpose of not only it gives you credibility, but it also encourages you and gives you the motivation to want to do better in the future. And that will encourage you to verify information before releasing it. Don't just rely upon one person, always double check it. And the other thing says use original sources whenever possible. Meaning, don't just rely upon, well, the website said this, or so-and-so told me that so-and-so told them. Get to the main source. It's one of these things that if I tell you, what time does the library close? Most of you will just Google it, or most of you will just look up the website. And that's fine, because that to a certain degree is an original source, But I think you're better off just to go down to the library and ask the librarian, because they know what time they're going to close the door. And so the reality is you always want to get your best source and the best information. Because a lot of times, like even like a website doesn't update. I know like the other day I was going to a store and it said it closed at 10 p.m. And I thought, I thought it closed at 9. But it makes sense because there's a few stores like it that close at 10. As a matter of fact, that's another store very much like it that's closer to my home, closes at 10. It's the only one of them that closes at 10. There's a couple of these stores in my hometown. And I thought, well, but I want to go to the other one, a different version. And so I went over there, and it had closed at 9. And even though the website said it would close at 10, it didn't. It closed at 9. And why is that of any importance? Because at the end of the day, you can't just rely upon a website. Sometimes, a corporate person is supposed to update these sites, and they don't actually update them as they're supposed to. And so you are relying upon information that's sort of secondary sources, not the original. The best way to get the information, go into the store, ask the clerk, that kind of thing. All right, I'm going to stop there because I want to keep these videos short to like 10 minutes for the purposes of posting them.